Okay, so
Good.
today is Friday, May 6, 2022, 1:55 p.m. and we are interviewing Mr. William Curtis, also known as Bill Curtis. He is an alumni from Frostburg State University. I am Lisa Zaharova, Special Collections Librarian and Archivist, and we're also here with Miss Carmen Jackson, who may also have some questions. So thank you, Bill, for joining us. We are doing an oral history, Black history at Frostburg, and so this is just an informal conversation about your experiences as one of our first generations of Black alumni and students on campus. And so can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, like how you came, your earlier years, like where you grew up and how you came to be a student at Frostburg?
Okay, the name is Bill Curtis. Graduated Frostburg in 1978. How did I come to Frostburg? Bill Atkinson, Mr. William Atkinson, the husband of Mrs. Pansy Atkinson, recruited us, came to Baltimore, came to our school. And I had that was my second round of high schools. So I had been expelled from the prior high school. So I had a second chance. I hung around with the college-bound kids, the smart kids, 1201 class, 1001 class. Anyway, the counselor at the time's name was Mrs. Banks, and she encouraged everyone to go to college. And I said, well, we don't have any money to go to college. She said, don't worry about the money, just go to the presentation. So I went to various presentations that came to Lake Clifton at that time, and Mr. Atkinson was there. You know, he had a real gentle spirit about it, very firm. Kind of reminded me of my father and his friends. And I bought into it and applied to come to Frostburg. I came to Frostburg in '74. Summer planning conference, and I liked it. You know, I sat on the steps of, I think it was Cumberland Hall. Yeah, Cumberland, there's Annapolis, and there's Cumberland. And I looked up at the sky and the clouds, and the air was like sweet. And I was like, yeah, you know, city boy, sort of. Small city, then Baltimore City. Grew up in Camden, New Jersey. So basically, you know, urban, but I like the environment, you know. So I came to Frostburg, and I will say that I directly didn't have, well, I've had some moments, bad behavior of white students, but the class, if I came up in '74, the class before me, there was a BSA president named Tony Jones. Before him was Terinda Thomas. They told me stories where there was outright assaults and just very, very bad behavior on behalf of their fellow students. I didn't directly experience that, so I benefited from, you know, whatever they went through. And I always acknowledged that. I never forgot that. So, at Frostburg, I was an English major. At that time, Mrs. Atkinson's office was called the Minority Affairs Office. I think Jack Taylor was her assistant, and he was an advisor to Black Student Alliance later, when I was a Black Student Alliance president. My first encounter with Mrs. Atkinson did not go very well. I was hell-bent on becoming a chemistry major. She had assessed my record from high school, and they had a college prep class at Lake Clifton that was English based. So I was strong in that. And she was like, well, I think, as she did with all students, black students that she dealt with, I would recommend that you, maybe you need to go down the English path. Because in high school, I was editor. Oh my goodness gracious! I was editor of the college of the newspaper at Lake Clifton. So I didn't follow her recommendation. I was like, nah, growling out the door. Young and full of vim, as my father used to say. So I was taking math class, going right across the street here, Dunkel Hall, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I discovered, maybe that's not for me. So, I eventually apologized to her, and I went down the path of English as an English major. And I thoroughly enjoyed that at Frostburg. My time at Frostburg, senior year, I was an older student, sort of. I was in Frederick Hall, had a senior roommate. He was a senior, I was a freshman. And then I became an RA. I had a good associate, a dear friend, who inspired me to become an RA. Kind of followed her advice, thank goodness. And I was RA in Allen Hall. Then I was I'm having flashbacks. In my sophomore year, then in my junior and senior year, I was senior RA in Allen Hall. And that was a very good experience with the college. And then in my junior and senior year, I was BSA president. Now, this is where the story gets very interesting, or at least interesting for me. When I became BSA president, this is part of probably the lingering bad behavior of the Frostburg as an institution. There was a gentleman that headed up, I can't call his name, but the director of finance notified me to come to his office and grilled me because the prior BSA, Black Student Alliance, had a negative, I'll never forget, it was like $41.82 on the books. Now this is prior to, as I understand now, Frostburg has evolved where it seems like there's direct funding to different organizations. Wasn't that back then. I was not intimidated by it. Well, $41 today is not a lot, but $41 back then was a little more kick to it. But he really tried to intimidate me into like it was big trouble. And it was, I didn't see it as big trouble because we had a good crew who were in Black Student Alliance where that $41 meant, we raised that money and paid the college off easily. What else can I say about Frostburg though? I was a RA. I dealt with, and I noticed this back then. I was president of the Black Student Alliance. We were very dynamic. We did, people tell me, and I know we did, because I let other people shine deliberately, because I wasn't trying to do everything. There's a good crew of people. There was a Kathy Nicholas, Rosalind, I want to say her last name was Stewart, Rhonda Roan, Terry Kerbine, Ernestine Clinton, and other members in the Black Student Alliance that really rallied around what do we call ourselves back then? Well, my theme was we need a new umbrella, because in 75, 76, a lot of organizations began to pop up. Omega Psi Phi, Alpha Phi Alpha, the black groups, AKAs, Deltas were here. And what I had envisioned just in my own thinking was like, we don't need to be conflicting with each other in terms of trying to do programs at the time, which was only Lane Center, is where dances were done. So I managed to help people to coordinate around that, so that we weren't clashing. It was called New Umbrella. But what I recognized was that even though I was a student, I was president of Black Student Alliance, I was an RA, and then I was a senior RA. And I wasn't here I was here to get an education and to get a degree. The Office of Minority Affairs, the advice of Mrs. Atkinson and Mr. Jack Taylor. I don't know if Fred Hort came along during that time, but definitely Jack Taylor were excellent advisors to the young man. If I was a hothead, and I never thought I was a hothead, if I was a hothead, I would never became an RA, so they wouldn't have hired me or brought me into that fold. I wanted to get the degree. So, Minority Affairs, Mrs. Pansy Atkinson, Mr. Jack Taylor advised me. Jack said, well, maybe you shouldn't do it that way. So, educated me how to navigate both of those tracks. Because people could perceive the Black Student Alliance at the time as some kind of militant, But we weren't that. We were an organization like any other organization here on campus. But Mrs. Atkinson and Mr. Jack Taylor were good advisors in terms of showing me how to be a part of the Frostburg community as an organization, and also to keep my job as RA, which I had no intention of losing. I would say, in terms of those conflicting racial things that happened, I laughed at the guy. I was RA at Allen Hall. This is when I was just the RA on the second floor. Kind of monitoring things, and went down to see a particular gentleman, a student, was making noise or playing music or whatever. And I'll never forget, when I think about it, I think I was very mature. I took it very maturely. He called me a name that supposedly is supposed to have been an insult to me. And I laughed at him. And I clearly remember that moment. That would have been my only direct racial occurrence at Frostburg in my experience. Now, other people have other experiences. Or there was an English teacher that I ducked deliberately. I think he had a little bit of that, I call it a mental disease, people would call it racism. But there's something, he just never gave my work any credence, So I dropped his class and I took that particular class. I think it was a class on Shakespeare, William Shakespeare. I dropped him and I took Shakespeare under another instructor during the summer. I don't know, what else would you want to ask me?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm
actually curious. You've talked about some role models, some administrators like Mr. and Mrs. Atkinson, how influential they were to you. What about some peers? Do you have students who helped you or provided advice for life at Frostburg, or being a student at Frostburg, and helped you on your way?
I did. I mentioned, in terms of Black Student Alliance, I was coached by Tony. I'll never forget sitting down with Tony Jones. I don't know, on the steps outside somewhere. And he told me the problems that they had. And I also was coached and educated and schooled by Tyrinda Thomas about Black Student Alliance. Now, in terms of being an English major, there was one Black, I think her name was Gwen. She was a senior, maybe when I was a sophomore. She was in the English department. But I had other students, I had a good friend of mine, I'll never forget her, Cyndia, who liked Emily Dickerson, so we could really conversate about school and
Okay.
English department. It's a good
When
thing.
you first heard that Mrs. Atkinson had passed, and you called me,
I did.
and you shared some of your grievance, and you wanted to go and take flowers to her home, and you came up.
I did.
So we want to hear about those feelings that you have for her, because it was impactful, and she was impactful to the campus, and you can explain that impact on you.
Oh, well.
She made a difference. What difference did she make in your life?
Well, I remained in touch with Mrs. Atkinson from the time I graduated on up through, I guess, nearly the end of her life. Well, for me, we could really talk about things. She was really deep. If you've read her book, she's very, very deep. Personally, I used to kind of joke with her and say, well, you know, you're like my surrogate mother. My mother passed a long time ago. And for me, I was kind of seeing what this whole mother thing was that people had, you know, about their mothers. Because I didn't have my mother. She died when I was 9. I was 9. So it was an experiment too, you know. What is the big deal these people have about their mothers? But she was very intelligent, very insightful. I remember writing a long piece about Obama when he ran for office. And boy, she edited for me, and I was like, boy, this is really editing. I mean, she really dug deep and asked me penetrating questions and how to clarify this and how to clarify that. It was an exercise. Probably, I've never been grilled like that before, not even when I was in college, you know. Mrs. Atkinson was she was a powerful spirit, you know. You know, she cared about black students and she cared about Frostburg. She was a little disappointed in the school, where the school kind of handled her. You know, she had to sue the college. During that time, we had formed a Black Alumni Association that, this is in the 80s. Myself, Amanda, I think her name was Amanda Bosket. And there was it's a little crew. I wish I could call the names up, I'm sorry. But we advocated on the outside, you know. In fact, I need to find an article that was published in the Sun papers that recognized us and recognized Senator Rawlings. He was head of the Ways and Means Committee, held up Frostburg's money in relationship to the college addressing some concerns that Ms. Atkinson had raised, I guess, through the suit. I need to get that article to you. I have it in my own Atkinson file at my house. But, so I'm just gonna say, you know, she wasn't totally pleased with, you know, Frostburg. I know that she had internal conflicts with certain other administrators that did not appreciate a quote-unquote minority affairs office or the work that they were trying to do. But the work that she did benefited, as I've come to understand it and as I've looked at it, benefited Frostburg as an institution. Oh.
And you said that she was like a mother to you.
Oh, that part.
Yeah.
What about it?
What did she do to make you feel that way?
Well, you know, I think she cared for me. And usually I would call her, this is interesting. I would check in with her maybe once a month, every other week or so. I knew she was up here by herself. And I used to kind of joke with her. I said, well, I'm just trying to keep your tendrils going. You keep everything percolating upstairs. And we both laugh about that. Give me your question again. I feel like I'm
You said that
searching.
you lost your mother when you were 9.
Yeah.
And you became close to Pansy Atkinson, and she was like a mother to you.
Yes.
And so I feel like you're not sharing your feelings.
Ah.
You're sharing a lot of facts.
So
She did things to will you in, make sure you were on top of things. What was your relationship with her? How you miss her? Why do you miss her? What did you miss about her? Feelings. It's okay.
Well, I personally, I knew she was going to pass. I kind of felt that. Because she would always kind of talk about when she flies away. And I would say, well, not just yet, I never asked her age. I knew she was up there. Just don't ask older people how old they are. Atkinson, Mrs. Atkinson, to me, well, I cared for her. I cared. I just cared about her. As I said, I knew she was here by herself in that house. COVID hit. She kind of shut down. Wouldn't let nobody come to see her until a particular gentleman. She allowed me to bring him up to visit her. Quincy Coleman, that is.
When you were a student, you had enough of a connection to her that made you want to stay in touch with her when you left.
Well, she was very smart. She was deep into Black history and the whole line of great thinkers in the Black American experience here in these United States. Everybody is not in that. So I could have conversations with her about that kind of thing. And that's just not, I don't have a big circle of people like that, and maybe that started here at Frostburg. I think it probably started after Frostburg. But I was in Black Student Alliance, so I had an awareness of the great Black continuum of thought in the United States and in the world. So that wasn't new to me. I enjoy talking with her.
Okay, so that was your relationship.
Yeah.
She was real deep.
She was very deep.
And she would call you out when you were wrong.
And she was a good advocate. I learned that from her too, just how to advocate. How to advocate without, burning the place down. Because we don't want to burn the place down. We just want the place to act like it's got some good behavior, and stop just messing with people because of their issues. So I stayed in touch with her because she was a good sounding board in my own life in terms of how I dealt with the world, be it a professional job, or as a writer, and anything else that I was up to.
So she would spend time with you.
Yeah.
She was a good listener.
Yeah, she's a good listener and
gave good advice.
Extremely good advice up to her passing. I miss that. I miss being able to pick up the phone, check in with her. How you doing? She tell me how she's doing. The don't be falling in the house. Got a lot of stuff up in there. Drink water. Say this thing about drinking water or not drinking water. You drinking any water today? You know, things like that.
Okay.
I guess that's, yeah, I cared in that sense. And what I really, I mean, this bothered me actually, is that I couldn't come up here to help her with some things, particularly 2 years of COVID, you know, because I had time available to do that. Like, I have time available to be here right now, okay? Retired from the job. But I do regret that, you know, to help. Well, I did come up to her house a few times to help. Move boxes, move some of her archives, and, you know, her books. Actually, I have, she gave me a couple boxes of her books. I have a very basic website that was built around that book, which I really need to update and inform you about in the library. You know, cared about the lady. She was a real asset.
Okay.
Asset to me and asset to Frostburg. She didn't just serve the black students, she served this university.
So in continuing with
Yeah.
that theme, you know, you've talked a lot about how Mrs. Atkinson influenced you for, you know, the rest of her life, you know, continuing on. So what about Frostburg, when you were a student at Frostburg State College, how did your experiences in college benefit you or not, you know, in your future, like going into your career? And, you know, what have you learned from Frostburg that you were able to carry over into your professional life?
I'll tell you, Frostburg is a very white school.
Mm-hmm.
So you come to Frostburg as a black student, right? You learn that white people really are not that smart. the conditioning is that, you know, you really got it going on. And Frostburg revealed that clearly for me. Not that I didn't know it prior to. Mm-hmm. Frostburg, in terms of its education, really good English department. I had great instructors. I remember Mr. Brewer was my advisor.
Ralph Brewer?
Yeah, is he still around?
I don't think so. I think he actually retired recently.
Yeah,
Not too long
he was
ago.
my advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't quite know what I was doing. You go to an advisor and he took me on, you know, he kind of steered me in a direction for classes, etc. In terms of going out into the world, the writing definitely helped the program here. The history department definitely helped. I think I was a history minor and a philosophy minor. Helped. Had an instructor named Esther Dorr who taught various aspects of Asian history. I am very well prepared for the current world that we're in, with the emergence of China and other parts of the world, particularly China. She was in China. And this is when China was not China as we know it today. China was just stumbling around in the dark, you know. Talking about the early 70s when I was here, mid 70s. China was still in some kind of the economy was cultural, not industrial as we know it today. But, you know, Professor Dorr really, you know, I am not surprised by what's happening with China and Asia because of the education and the exposure I got here at Frostburg. Literally, and I've told this to other people, I said, man, I am not surprised what China's doing. They have a very long history, and I was exposed to that through my education at Frostburg. Help!
You're doing good.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Teachers, instructors, well, stands out to me. Dr. Wiseman was good. Cynthia Coleman. Wiseman was Black literature. Wiseman was African history. We used to have great debates. Dr. Trask, English department, taught the language of early English when it wasn't the English that we're talking today. He impressed me. Dr. LaChance, English department, taught, I remember D.H. Lawrence through his class. I mean, there were some really deep teachers at Frostburg. You know,
Cynthia Coleman, what class did you take with her?
Cynthia Coleman was African American literature or Black literature, English department. The English department was I feel very good about what I got here. You know, I do. So I took that, and what did I do after that? Oh, I did have to run back to community college and take technical writing when I got out of school. I did that to help me more market myself job-wise. And what else did I do? Oh, I took some classes at Johns Hopkins. I found out Johns Hopkins is very overrated. Overrated, well, at least for the English department. They're very young, not very young. They had mature teachers, then they had new teachers that were a little bit intimidated by an older student. So I took 3 classes at Hopkins. I said enough of them. But Frostburg and Lake Clifton High School were a good foundation. Lake Clifton was a good foundation for Frostburg. Frostburg was a good foundation for life in general. You know, I mean, one thing at Frostburg, when we were at Frostburg, when Frostburg was smaller, maybe 2,000 students, there was at maximum maybe, I think it might have been 168, 100, or maybe 200 Black students. So you learn to deal with all kinds of folk. And in my case, I had to because I was an RA. I mean, you can't be an RA, you're not dealing with people. So Frostburg, you know, if you really want to like learn how to interact and become engaged with other people, Black, white, foreigners, you may want to come to Frostburg, you know? It's its own little environment in the mountains of Western Maryland, you know?
So that's a good point. So you know, like on that subject, so how would you maybe compare your experiences as, you know, in the 70s, mid to late 70s, to students today? You know, what kind of, how did their experience, how might it differ from yours? You know, like just even in terms of more diversity, or like what are some of the like biggest differences that students today have compared to when you were here?
Well, there's definitely more Black students at Frostburg. Comparing, as I was joking about an hour ago with a young lady who is the incoming president of the Council of Negro Women Organization branch here. Mm-hmm. I was sharing with her in Lane Center that when we were in school, if you saw another Black student, there was some kind of acknowledgement going on, you know? I said, now you guys walk around, y'all don't see nobody. And they kind of looked at me like, really? I says, yes. Even, you know, to answer your question directly, yeah, I mean, I look around now, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of Black people up here at Frostburg. And that says a lot about Frostburg, okay? And it also says a lot about the foundation that Ms. Atkinson like laid out, brought forth
Given the fact too that we're in Western Maryland, where
Of
it's
all
not a very
places.
diverse population, but Frostburg is different. So
Yeah.
maybe back when you were a student, it was more representative of the population demographics at the time. But here, Frostburg has been a diverse place that we have these student voices, and we had them when you were a student and prior to you, but now it's just become more more diversity, more voices, different experiences, so that there's a connection with. I'm hoping there's a connection with students of all backgrounds, and I'm hoping that students are able to connect more these days than perhaps earlier on.
When Bill was here, every black person knew every other black person by name,
Mhm.
where they live,
What hall they were in.
what classes. I mean, literally, it was a very small, tight-knit community. If there was a problem on the campus involving any of the minority students, we were all there, and that was before cell phones.
Oh. Speaking of cell phones, so there is a difference today. I can visually see that. I mean, walking through the campus, I would even say, you take it on, and the collection, Atkinson's papers. I would. That's big.
Yeah.
She had mentioned to me. So she passed this year. I mean, as recent as last year. I gave papers to the school. I gave them some of my papers, but I don't know what's happening to them down there. And that's one of the things I had always thought, man, if I could just get up there and I'd come down and see what was going on. I never did it, but she was aware that she had provided the school with some of her documents. So, you took it on, and here we are. And that's I guess that's a reflection of like the difference between then, you're talking about the 70s, and the 70s. I was here in the 70s, so I wasn't here during the terribly rough time between 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73. I came up in 74. So you had 7 years of probably hell that the other guys took, at least 5 or 6 years. When I came up, I didn't see any of that, but it was still happening. And I mind my business. I was an older student too. I was 20 when I came up here, 20. And I had been expelled from high school, went back to high school. So I was ready to go to school. I wasn't here for nothing else. I studied, they didn't see me. I didn't run around socializing and all that. No. Up in Frederick Hall, my roommate at the time was a senior. He said, man, you're always studying. Well, I didn't come up here to fail. That was my thinking,
But you're still very active on campus. You're still, the residence in hall, senior, is it hall advisor, residence hall?
Back then?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's on another level though. I mean, I was a paraprofessional.
Yeah.
On behalf of the school, and as I remember, Mr. Bill Grab, gave me good guidance on doing that job.
Mm-hmm.
And even pulled me up when I was very involved in Black Student Alliance and I was only taking 9 credits. He pulled me into his office and said, hey, you can't do that. And I explained to him what I was doing because I had dropped some classes to commit to the organization. Then I made up for it the next semester by taking like 18 credits or 21 credits, And I was an RA too, so you can't be like, you can't do that. But good coaching, good mentoring, and he cared. And I believe he was a good administrator as well, but he cared for my success like that. What else?
Do you have any additional questions, Carmen?
No, he sparked a lot of thoughts for me when he brought up some names like Esther Dorr, Bill Grab.
Oh, Esther Dorr was the lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, your memory is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, asking you to recollect all of these names 45 years ago.
Esther Dorr impressed me. I took a lot of her classes. Actually, quiet as it's kept, in my basement, I still have my Asian textbooks. You know, and it comes in handy today because of the way the world is. The world is, something's happening in the world, not just Ukraine either, but there's something happening in the world. There's a shift going in the world. And we all need to get with it, you know. But yeah, so yeah, I remember them because they were good. They were good Frostburg administrators, you know, good students that I enjoyed being here. And I enjoyed the experience of being an RA. Being an RA, and then we could hire people. Hire, what do they call it, DAs, desk assistants. Could hire people, you know? Build a team. Maybe that's what I learned at Frostburg too. Build a team, because you're not just hiring people like, oh, I got the power to hire you. No. And I think they enjoyed working for me. Working with me.
But you had a lot of training to be an RA.
Oh yeah, that's true too. Yeah,
Lot.
yeah. Frostburg, wow. And here I am at Frostburg. See, I'm gonna tell this to you, excuse me, I'm getting tongue twisted. But I was not one to come back up and forth up the road to Frostburg. I don't do no homecoming. I'm not all personally, because I have some, you know, I've kind of talked to you. I've had some issues with this university. So the work that you have pulled together and coordinated, and you have worked together and pulled together, and the young man Will O'Boyle has pulled together, you know, it's starting to get, Frostburg is starting to get redeemed just a little teeny bit.
Well,
You got a lot of work to do, but just a little teeny bit. And it's a good work. It's a good work.
Yeah.
Ma'am?
Anything we can do to help, you
Yeah.
know, make your impression of Frostburg more positive. It sounds like you've had positive and negative experiences.
I did.
You know, and that's the case for a lot of students, but especially, you know, students who came to Frostburg at that era.
Yeah.
You know, students of color in particular. The reality is not all of your experiences were positive, and we have to acknowledge that. You know, that there were faults in, you know, an administration, and there are faults within the student, just the mentality that they were not like, especially the students who had grown up only to be in a very isolated area and come to college and have their whole world explode. There are different types of people out here. We're very grateful to have you here and share your experiences, and everything connects over time. You can see that.
It does. You triggered something in my mind. As I said, back then, 70, 76, 77, 78, we were not funded. Black Student Alliance was not funded as an organization. I remember we had to have the Student Government Association to approve whatever, I don't know, $600 to bring a band up. There was a young lady working at the candy counter. I still remember her name. She opposed it, but she worked at the candy counter. The candy counter was where the little satellite office is, where the lady sits. Judy sits.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that was the candy counter. That was a candy store. Snacks. I would go to talk to her like almost every day. I'm buying candy. Exploring her opposition, because she was important to the SCA. And learning something about her, and she learned something about me. We kind of became buds, right? Because it's important to talk. So she wanted to be the person to nominate. She was chief opposition, but she wanted to be the person to nominate to give the motion to fund whatever else to bring up some band, to provide the Black Student Alliance with X amount of dollars to pay for the band that comes to the college and do a performance.
See, up till then, the BSA had its own budget allotted, just like SGA.
No,
So,
then,
no,
no.
back then, before that. And then, this was the first year where you had to go through SGA to get money.
No, I don't remember us ever getting funds. We weren't funded in, we raised our money. That was a big deal for us. We had to raise, the guy pulled me in the office because we had negative $44 or
So I
something.
have it backwards. The SGA gave you funding, but then after that, I guess after you left, BSA got its own funding. And then they lost it and.
Yeah,
spent
they
a
lost
whole bunch
it.
of
Yeah, there was.
Drama sense.
I see. But during our time, we were not funded at all.
Right.
Zero. We had to raise funds. We were very creative with that. But, you know, this whole diversity thing, we didn't use the word diversity back then. Today it's a buzzword. Diversity and inclusion. It's a modern day fun. It's a modern day buzzword. Then, as I'm thinking about it, we had to just really talk to each other, you know, because there was no construct of something called diversity or inclusion. So me talking with that particular person required me to talk to that person and share ideas with that person, and they back and forth. She was from the high end of a county in Maryland. I remember she was from Silver Spring.
Oh.
So, you know, it's not like she's from a low-end county. She's from a money county. It's Montgomery County. Yeah, yeah. But it required, you know, being people, you know. That was a good experience for me at Frostburg. You know, sometimes, and even to this day, you know, I have friends I talk with, you know, white friends, and you can raise certain issues with them, possibly. Still uncomfortable with certain issues though, but the issues get raised, and it's okay. You know, that's my part of my Frostburg experience as well.
That's great.
Yes.
Well, yeah, any other comments or?
I don't know. Anything else you want to ask? I feel like I've been.
Very, very thorough, and I'm
I
just
think
impressed.
to get at what I was trying to get from him, I'll have to record some of our phone conversations.
Okay. Well, he's doing the best that he can, given
He's doing
his-
real good. I'm just trying to get the feelings and,
Yeah.
I was
because I know they're there.
I want to give kudos to the English department as well. I was at Frostburg. I was co-editor of the literary magazine Bittersweet
Yeah.
while I was here.
I saw some of your poetry in the yearbook. One of your poems got published in the yearbook.
Frostburg yearbook.
Yes. Yeah, you must have contributed something.
Must have.
I can try to
You
find
wrote
it.
a
for
lot.
you. Yeah. So. Well, thank you very much, you know, Mr. Curtis. This has been a great, you know, just experience getting to hear from you, and you know, I really appreciate you staying in touch with Frostburg and being more open to, you know, your talk about your connections on campus. It's invaluable. It really is.
Thank you.
Thank you.